Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for another update. I'm Anthony Smith here with Surge Transportation's founder and president, Omar Singh. Omar, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me today, Anthony. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you again. And Omar, you recently wrote an article and it was around building partnerships. And so just jumping right in, what's the hardest part about building a new partnership?
So the hardest part in our industry, I think, honestly, is just getting noticed and then getting an opportunity if you're able to get noticed. At Surge Transportation, we're brokers. There are 24,000 licensed brokerages in the nation, and a lot of those brokerages have many offices which operate independently of each other or many reps. So, take that and say there are at least maybe 100,000 people calling on sometimes the same shippers some of the time. And then on top of that, there are around 300,000 licensed motor carriers, which again also have different terminals and different strategies. So finding kind of a way to get noticed in that sea of competitors is, I think, the most difficult. So everything from, of course, emails and cold calling to knocking on doors of warehouses to going to trade shows and conferences and just sort of trying to get yourself out there. And then if you're able to do that, to sort of make a case for someone to give you an opportunity, because so many shippers are established in their relationships already. Often the relationships go decades back. They're strategic, or say asset-based carriers are providing equipment on their property. So, number one, get noticed. And then number two, really be able to make a case for getting an opportunity to essentially show that you can be a valuable provider are by far I think that's by far the hardest part of gaining entry into this industry.
So Omar, one of the things I love that you did in your most recent article was that you broke things down into steps. What steps do you recommend providers take once they are given an opportunity?
Well, at a high level, I think the first step really is to figure out a way to be specialized and strategic within that particular customer's or client's supply chain. So, I break it down by mode and then different layers within the mode. And the article talks about truckload, but of course you have, LTL, and you've got ocean, you've got air, you have rail. And so I kind of really break down the different layers within the modes. But the main point being that you want to find a way to really be specialized for that customer's needs. And I think the two main ways are to either do something that not everybody does, assuming that if they're a large shipper, they're working with anywhere from 100 to 200 providers, a mix of brokers and motor carriers, and to kind of be able to do things that not everybody does, or not everybody does that well. So you can be specialized by doing one or two things really, really well, better than any of those other, say, 100 or 200 providers. Or I think another way of becoming specialized is to be so diversified across what all of their needs may be throughout the year, that's another way of being specialized, by saying, we have so much invested in this relationship, in all of the different sort of needs that we have throughout the year, and different even potentially modes if you're a multimodal provider, just to say we are so invested in this relationship, and they're wide and then they're deep in our supply chain. And that just can also be another way of being a strategic player and being specialized and standing out to whatever that customer or client's needs are.
And so Omar, it's such a huge industry, and with so many competitors, how can you be more strategic or become strategic in moving truckload freight?
So that's the key, right? For us, it's truckload, and for other people, it's different. But within truckload, I've written about and I've talked a little bit on FreightWaves. I kind of had a hard fall after my trucking company went out of business in 2010, and I was kind of rebuilding customer relationships, my career in 2011, and to try to diversify within my customers, but also gain as much sort of business as possible. Identified kind of 7 levels or layers of partnership within truckload shippers that we could go after. And those are primary business, where you're the first choice for whatever strategic reason, either price or strategic backhaul lanes. and then backup business where you're ballpark, but maybe not going to see the first choice on that volume. Seasonal business, which I define as being 90 days, around 90 days. So I say you have 100 days of summer between Memorial Day and Labor Day, where some product is shipping at higher volumes, like bottled water, ready to drink beverages. You've got also retail and food during Q4. You have other events throughout the year that just everybody can plan around, knowing that either there's seasonal product, or if the shipper doesn't have seasonal product, there's seasonality around the business that takes up capacity because other people have seasonal business. And then temporary, which is, I say, 30 days or less, they can be planned events or they can be unplanned. And by planned, major holidays, major sporting events. Valentine's Day, we'll get a bump of flowers and chocolates. There'll just kind of be some short-term bumps throughout the year. And then there are also unplanned events like hurricanes, tornadoes, weather events, ice in places where it doesn't usually freeze over, things like that, where you can kind of reasonably assume there are going to be needs throughout the year, but you don't really have that date in mind. And then 2 layers of spot are API, real-time dynamic pricing, spot, which are really established relationships. And then you have a little bit more of the transactional spot where you just kind of go in and bid on a bid board. But there's still needs that customer has where their loads aren't covered. So it's a valuable place to kind of establish yourself, and usually can also build some opportunities. If you keep seeing the same loads on the same lane, a lot of times, they'll just essentially ask you to own the lane and have an opportunity to build business that way. And then there are expedites, which I think are the hardest. They're always late at night. They're always a pressure cooker. They're always going to either shut down a production line or miss an airplane. And those are sometimes the fewest in number of loads, but the most important and the ones that will really help you stand out a lot with your customers.
Omar, incredibly insightful, and thank you so much for your time and your updates here today. If people want to learn more about Surge Transportation, where can they find you?
So just info, Surge Transportation is good enough. It'll get routed to the right person, whether that's me or somebody else, and we have a pretty good response time too. So you'll see an answer for sure. So
thanks, Omar, and look out for more from Surge Transportation in the coming months on FreightWaves.com. Thanks for watching.